So welcome everyone. This video is basically going to cover Saturn in the houses, what Saturn is going to be like when it is into the sign of Aries, which is currently in. So as part of this introduction, I'm going to go through what Saturn is going to be like in Aries, and how it's going to basically affect everyone on a grand scale, on a global scale, and this is pretty interesting. So let's get straight into it. Saturn moved into Aries on February the 13th, 2026, this year, at the start of this year. And it's going to leave on April 2028. Now, that's obviously a while away, so we won't really focus on that too much. But here's what we have to envision and remind ourselves of what Saturn is. You see, Saturn sits at the top of all of our planets, essentially, the 7 main ones. So Saturn is, let me just place myself here. So Saturn is to do with discipline, death, wisdom, restriction, karma, and structure. Now you add that with Aries, which is impulse, initiation, identity, war, and independence. And that is going to create one heck of a cycle. Now, the reason why this is so important, guys, is because it's the start of a whole new cycle, okay? So throughout the zodiac, there we go. So throughout the circle, let's say Aries is over here. As soon as Saturn crosses over into Aries, past this point right there, that's a whole new cycle that is going to start. So everything that it was doing before on the old cycle until it came up to here is basically like a big finishing. Oh, there we go. The sun's coming out. It's like a big ending that Saturn has just come to, and everything about it is just going to shift and change a lot. Okay, it's like a new era almost for Saturn. Now, a lot of people are interested and really asking, what does this mean? Does this mean war is going to come? Does this mean a lot of people are going to change identities? Does this mean a lot of what's going to happen? So I'm not so much into predictive astrology, even though I have learned methods of using predictive astrology and mathematical things in that sort of area of astrology. What I can tell you is the basic stuff. Okay, so if Aries is impulse, initiation, Aries is actually quite intuitive as well, but we're not going to get into that too much. Identity, war, and independence. When we have Saturn in there, people are going to go through a period, essentially, where they might feel restricted in their identity, and so they want to break out of that. People might go through a period where they're like, oh, no more, enough. And then so war, but also war is not really the thing with Aries, even though yes, it is the sign. It is literally the one sign of war, as is ruled by the god of war, Mars. So is Scorpio. Aries is more so to do with war, and this might bring about an effect on people where actually they're like, you know what, I want to go ahead and fight for my independence and really find out who I am. So people are going to want to find out who they are. People are going to go through in the next 2.5 years. This is collectively, right? Not for any of the rising signs. We're not into that yet. People are going to want to find out, why am I who I am? What is going on inside of me, and where can I put my best energy and efforts into? And with Saturn in there, that's Aries. Now with Saturn in there, people are going to be dealing with a lot of karma, changes perhaps in structure to their own self. Aries is like a very independent. It's about the self. The logos for Aries is I am. Okay. So the logos for Aries is I am. So if we think about Saturn going into a sign where the logos is I am, we think about discipline, death, wisdom, restriction, karma, and structure into I am. There will be discipline into who are you? What you really are. There will be death into I am. Maybe you thought you were someone, but shit happens. Life happens. Maybe you're not that person. There will be wisdom, so much wisdom to come, because Saturn, yes, as beautiful as it is also as ugly as it is. It's the greater malefic. So much wisdom going to come from who it is that you are. You're going to find out, you're going to be your own biggest teacher, okay? People are going to learn how to be their own biggest teacher in the next 2.5 years, okay? Restriction. So people are going to feel restricted, whether it is through global events. This is clinging and clanging too much. People are going to feel restricted by global events and so many other things. And so, yeah, restriction is going to be a big key theme. Karma into who I am. Karma out of who you are. And, it's funny that word karma and dharma, but we're dealing with karma here. And people are pretty much going to find out, okay, what does it cost for me to be who I am? And what kind of a structure do I have in life? And how does that feed who I am? So Saturn in Aries is structure, courage, and independence. Okay. It's a lot to do with structure. Saturn, it rules the bones in your body. And it is the start of a new 29-year cycle. So you guys might have heard of a Saturn return. Well, that's where Saturn comes back to the exact point in your birth chart where it was when you were born. So for example, me, I have Saturn in my 10th house over here. A very good placement. And when Saturn goes back into Gemini in a few years, that's going to be when I turn 29, more or less. And that's called a Saturn return. So whenever we see Saturn going into Aries, or anything going into Aries, it starts a new cycle. So if Saturn takes 29 years to get back to the same point, then this is why it is said that it is the start of a new 29-year Saturn cycle, a Saturn cycle. And yes, this over here is the sigil for Saturn. So this is pretty much a reset for all people. So like I said, when it starts that new cycle, everyone's going to feel it. Be your own authority and hold thyself accountable is what Saturn in Aries is going to push us to do. You will be put in solo or independence mode. Now, with the amount of planets in Aries right now, I do want to focus on Saturn, but with the amount of planets in Aries right now, people are going to be very, very much so pushed towards doing things independently, learning things from themselves. It's all about thyself, Aries. And that's a very important thing, is before you go out there into the world telling people this and telling people that, have that conversation and have that connection to thyself. So yeah, so now we're going to pretty much get into the rising signs one by one. And I'm going to break down what this means if you are Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo Rising, Virgo Rising, Libra Rising, all of these. We're going to get into all of this because they all have different meanings. And like I said, if you guys don't know what rising sign you are, I do not have a video out yet at this moment, but it is very simple. You can go onto an astrological website and you will need basically three things: the location that you were born at, the time of day you were born at, and the date you were born at. Then you'll be able to find your rising sign. Once you find your rising sign, you will know which one to look out for, because I will have little sections, little bookmarks where you can just skip to. You don't have to watch all of these because only one of these will apply to you. And then you can find out how it is Saturn is going to affect you or effect you. And then we're going to really get into it. So we have Saturn in Aries. And if you are an Aries rising, okay, so let me just say this as a as just a general theme. All right, there's a lot of planets in Aries, okay, and this means a lot of endings and a lot of new beginnings. Now with Saturn in your first house, this is a big identity shift. Your first house rules essentially your persona, who you are on a more deeper level rather than your surface sun level, who shines everywhere. The sun is unconditional. It shines everywhere. It's always out every single day. Not like the moon, which isn't always there. So your moon sign is who you are more so when the moon is full. So when we have our rising sign and Saturn within it, this means your identity. You are going to go essentially in the next 2.5 years, Aries rising, through a shift where you might not feel like you're the same person. You might feel like actually there's some things that need changing. There's some things that need a death so that there can be a rebirth. There's some things that I've been restricting myself on, or that the world has restricted upon me, and now it's time to change that. Okay, so look to where in your life you can change things. Give death and welcome death into certain areas of your life, because death means rebirth. As ugly and as brutal and as harsh as death can be, guys, Aries rising, it can also be a very, very beautiful thing when you understand and understand that actually death means rebirth. Also, it means maturity. Okay, so when Saturn goes through your first house is a very personal house. It's a very deep and personal house. This is why you look very closely to the 4 houses. That is the 1st, the 4th, the 7th, and the 10th. But the 1st means that with Saturn in there, you are going to mature a lot more. So because you're going to mature a lot more, you don't just mature out of anything. It means you're going to be challenged quite a lot. And this is going to be a very challenging one, Aries rising, for you. And it's going to ask you to mature in or through ways that you probably didn't even know was possible. Okay. And it's going to ask, lastly, but more discipline of you. Okay. So whenever Saturn goes through our first house, This is going to ask and demand discipline, okay? Stop the bullshit. Stop the games. Stop fucking about, okay? You fuck around and you find out. Now, you've been fucking around. Now you're going to find out with Saturn in your first house. Really look to where you can be a better person, to where you can be a more loving person, to where you can offer more to the world, to where you can simply be a more harmonious being, okay? And through that, discipline thyself, because this is exactly what Saturn in the first house is going to mean. Now, there are a few things, or at least one thing I want to talk about that I didn't mention on here in this little box, which is your looks, how you look, okay? Our first house is how we look, okay? How we present ourselves. I'm talking about how we physically look. Also how we are in our persona, as I just talked about, but also how we look. So that being said, Saturn is going to bring an end to certain things about how you look. Maybe you're going to shave your head off completely, right? You have long Jesus hair like me. Maybe you're going to shave your head off. Maybe you feel like it. Maybe you don't. Maybe you feel like getting some new piercings. Maybe you feel like taking away certain things or modifications that you've done to yourself. Maybe you feel like, actually, I don't want this tattoo on my body anymore. Let me get laser removal. That is very much so the case whenever Saturn goes through the first house of someone, or whenever there's an aspect or some form of aspect with Saturn to our first house or our first house ruler, which would be Mars in this case, but it's not. It's the first house that it's going to go into. So be ready and be okay with changing how you look and you present yourself to the world. Number 2, we have Taurus Rising. Now, this is a very, very deep one, okay? So if you're a Taurus Rising, it means that Saturn is going into Aries, and the sign, so Taurus is your first house. Taurus Rising. This means that, got confused there. This means that Saturn is going to enter essentially your 12th house of Aries, because that's exactly where it's going to go. And 12th house is to do with your deep psychology, some quite deep things that 12th house holds for us, and it's a very, very spiritual house. Myself, I have Venus basically in my 12th house, and anything in your 12th house will speak about your spiritual nature. Now with Saturn moving into there, okay. Because Taurus is your first house and Aries is signed before that, so it means that it's going to enter Aries, which is your 12th house. This is many endings. So Saturn has just started a new cycle. And then if you're a Taurus rising, it's going to feel like actually for the next 2.5 years for Taurus rising, it might still be ending a lot of things because it's going through your 12th house, and then it's going to go through your first house, which is obviously Taurus rising. So expect many endings with different people, with different subjects, with different themes, whether it's a job, but mainly what we're going to really look into is isolation, deep psychological and spiritual work. So you might feel like, actually, I feel so isolated in the next 2.5 years. I feel so alone. This is because Saturn is going to ask for you to be alone and to reflect and to make changes upon those reflections. Also, like I said, the 12th house is a very spiritual house. It's a very deep, mystical, psychological house. Often when people go through mental changes and mental health problems, as an astrologer, we would want to look to their 12th house to see what's going on. Also the 8th house, but the 12th house especially. So deep psychological and spiritual work. What does that mean? So the 12th house is basically the house of psychology, and also the house where we look to, where we want to see, okay, what's going on in the spiritual realm or the psychological realm of this person. And we look to the ruler of that 12th house. For you, Taurus rising, that would be Mars. And we can see things. But now we're looking at essentially Saturn going in there and asking you, okay, what is your psychological mainframe about? What is your psychological life like? And since it is also the very spiritual house, guys, you guys definitely will experience some form of death or letting go of in terms of your spiritual nature, your spiritual life, and whatever's going on. Also, you will get tremendous wisdom, okay? And I mean tremendous wisdom. The 12th house, just like the 12th sign, Pisces, is a very Gnostic-like house and sign. So be prepared to learn a lot of lessons from thyself. Be prepared to perhaps be in that isolation mode and learn what it is like to be you and make the best of changes and do reach out and do help people. I'm not saying, oh, you're going to be isolated and that's it. No, reach out and help people if you feel the need to do that. Okay. We are a collective for a reason. Nobody is Superman and nobody can do things themselves. Not even Superman could do things and shit himself. You get a little piece of rock, a little crystal, throw it at Superman. You know what I'm saying? Even the most powerful from a rock, okay? It doesn't matter. You call people if you need help, okay? And when we're looking at Saturn in the 12th house, we're looking at, okay, maybe you might, at the end of this, change the way you view things spiritually. You might be like, actually, you know what? I don't want to be part of this religion. I don't want to be part of this train of thought. I don't want to be vegan anymore. I don't want to be carnivore anymore. I don't want to be, this is more so pointing to the spiritual realm of how we interact with the world and how we perceive the world and how the world treats us. So if you do feel like changing your belief systems, if you do feel like changing your repetitive negative thinking and things about your psychology that you don't find nice, this is the perfect time to do it, Taurus Rising. Gemini Rising. Okay, so this is interesting. So Gemini Rising, this is going to be transiting your 11th house, 2 houses before your rising, before your Gemini Rising is Aries. So this could, the 11th house is to do with friends, is to do with social circles. Like I said, guys, it's quite easy. The 11th house is like the 11th sign of Aquarius. So revolution, it can mean also a little bit of independence, but also a collective, a community, right? So a loss of friends / real ones shown, okay? Your real ones are going to come out by the end of this 2.5 year period. Your real boys and your real gal them are going to come out, okay? It's not going to be a case of like, oh, I'm going to lose all my friends. No, fuck all that. You're going to find out who the real ones are. You never lose friends in this life. You find out who the real ones are. And that's exactly what's going to happen. So your real friends are going to be shown. But yes, guess what? You might also lose some friends. It's time to let go of dead weight in your friendship circles. It's time to really think about what it is that you're going to go through as a collective, as a revolution, because Aquarius, like the 11th sign is the 11th house, is to do with revolutions. We are in the age of Aquarius, or approaching it, as some astrologers would say. That's a very heated debate. I don't want to get into that. But nevertheless, you look at the Aquarian theme, okay? And for you, you're an air sign in your rising. Your ruler is Mercury, just like me. I'm a Virgo rising. So my ruler is also Mercury, Gemini rising. I'm with you there. I'm going to feel some of this. So change in community. Like I said, Aquarius is quite heavily associated with community and communal living and the care and the energy that you put out to the people around you, okay? Remember, it is a fixed air sign, so this house can be quite fixed and this can be quite tough. So for the fixed houses, like the fixed signs, this can be quite a tough one. And we're not talking about angular, succeedant or cadent, but this is quite an interesting one. So be prepared to change your community. Be prepared to, actually, you know what? I don't want to live in this commune with these people. Actually, you know what? I don't want to have or associate with certain friends of mine. Actually, I don't even want to associate with this whole area, okay? And that's fine. Live and let live, but also live and let die. That's the message of Saturn. Live and let die, okay? You must live yourself, but also live and let die. Whoever needs to die, whoever needs to come out of your life, this is going to be very, very indicative of that. So this is going to be a very good time to also work on long-term goals. If you have any goals that you really want to chase and go after, do it. This is the perfect time for you to chase those goals. Go after whatever it is that you want to do, because Saturn does like somewhat being in the 11th house, because it is the classical ruler of Aquarius. Nowadays, yes, Uranus rules Aquarius, but also classically, you can never ignore the fact that Saturn does have an impact and an effect on Aquarius. And because it's the 11th sign, just like the 11th house, it loves being there. So if you really pay attention, you're going to find that working on your long-term goals, not your short-term ones, which is more Gemini actually, just as a sign itself, not as your first house, the long-term goals will be quite influential upon you. So these are the main things that I would say for a Gemini rising is accept that you might not be friends with the same people that you are now at the end of it, when it enters, when it changes signs, essentially on April the 28th into Taurus. be okay with changing community, changing family, even changing friends, and definitely work on the long-term goals. You're going to have quite a big energy push when it comes to your long-term goals. So personally, I would focus on those three the most. Cancer rising is going to go into your 10th house. Well, it's in your 10th house already, actually. I don't know why I wrote the glyph for Cancer over here completely incorrectly. Let me just go and fix that a little bit. So guys, the 10th house is where where Saturn is exalted. So like I said, my house, this is right here. This is the 10th house over here. This is the first house over here. That's the 4th. And this is the 7th. Okay. So that's number 7 over there. This is number 4. And this is number 1. So these are the mainly the 10th, the 1st, the 7th, and the 4th. Those are the quite important houses that you want to pay attention to. So since Cancer is your rising sign, that means that Saturn will be entering your 10th house, and Saturn loves being there. Why? Because just like the 10th sign that Capricorn, is ruled by Saturn, Saturn loves being in the 10th house. Saturn is at the top of your, essentially, transiting Saturn is at the top of your chart right now. It's at the top. And Saturn loves being at the top. Why? Because it's already at the top of the 7 classical planets. So your career will be a big theme. So work hard. This is the main thing I'm going to emphasize if you're a Cancer rising. Work hard, and work hard. Really push through and learn to give yourself a break. Learn to give yourself that rest time. Go on a holiday or two. You know what I'm saying? Don't always work hard. But work hard, because when Saturn is in our 10th house, this is the perfect time to just go in. Also, you will gain much exposure. What does that say? I can't even, plenty of people. I can't even read my own writing. But anyways, you will gain much exposure from plenty of people. So exposure in a way where, what does that mean? So your 10th house is how basically the world sees you, right? The 10th house sits at the top of your chart, like I said. And this means that everyone can see you. Everyone's going to be able to see this 10th house. In astrology, what we see mostly about people will probably be their sun sign or their 10th house, whatever their 10th house is like, okay? And that's exactly what it's going to be like. So people will be able to see you for you in a very different way. So in terms of business and career, amazing, right? And you actually might find that Saturn going into your 10th house, Cancer rising, means that actually you want to change careers. Actually, you want to give death to that career that you've been doing or invested in. Actually, you feel like there's a lot of restriction in that career. You want to change that. You want to give death to it so that it can rebirth something else. And then you're going to have to, guess what? Work hard to build up another career or go into another career or mode of life. So definitely pay attention to the exposure that you're going to get, the people that you're going to meet. You're going to meet a lot of people that might help you with your career. So pay much attention to that. This is going to be a very positive thing. Also, like I said, Saturn is exalted here. Okay, so Saturn loves being here. So welcome that Saturnian energy in a theme or in a case of where you're like, actually, you know what? I do need to work hard on my career. I do need to put myself out there more. Put yourself out there more, Cancer rising, because this is when you're going to reap a lot of rewards. And Saturn represents the scythe, okay? This little curve over here from the sigil of Saturn is called a scythe. And that's where farming comes from. Farming comes from Saturn. He waits patiently and then he harvests his crops. It's not always the Grim Reaper. Before it was a Grim Reaper, he was a farmer. So definitely pay attention to your career and work hard. That's the only and the best things that I could say for Cancer rising. Then we have Leo rising going into your 9th house. Saturn is going into your 9th house. Okay, so this is a restructure of your belief systems, more discipline in learning, teaching, careful on any long distance travels. Now, let me get into these one by one. So a restructure of your belief system. So the 9th house, look just like the 9th sign, Sagittarius, is to do with religion, philosophy, theology, theosophy, you could say. And it's pretty much to do with what you believe in and why you even believe in it, okay? Sounds simple, but it is quite massive. It's a massive, remember, it's ruled by Jupiter, Sagittarius. So the ninth house, Jupiter likes being in the ninth house because it's massive, it's expansive. Jupiter is it holds a lot. All of these religions, all of these theosophies and theologies and everything, they're ruled by Jupiter, and it's quite big. Now, Saturn and Jupiter, they don't get along. So Saturn might not like being in that house, but nevertheless, Leo rising, you're gonna have to maybe let go of some of the things that you believe in your belief systems. Maybe you're a Muslim and you don't want to be a Muslim, you want to be a Christian. Maybe you're a Christian and you want to be a Buddhist. Maybe you're a Buddhist and you want to go back to being a Christian or a Gnostic, so on and so forth. This is all to do with your belief systems. So be aware. I would probably suggest you research what Tantra is and really look at real Tantra, whatever that even means. But that's my only and best advice that I could give at this point in my journey. Nevertheless, your belief systems, what you believe in, maybe your mode of prayer, how you connect to other people through these is definitely going to be affected. So remember, all of these houses and everything, like I've been saying, is going to have an Aryan theme to it. So because Aries is your ninth house, this can feel like a quite passionate thing for you, and it can be quite a difficult thing to accept that you're going to have to change your belief systems, because you might find something. Saturn might come in and give you wisdom, and then because he gives you the wisdom of something, you're like, oh, I never knew that. Wow, that's very deep. Then you're going to have to change your belief systems or things about you or things that you believe in because of that wisdom. And so then death comes. And so you're going to feel restricted in what you can say and what you can't say. And you're going to feel like in, just certain weird ways. And that's fine. That's completely fine. So more discipline in learning and teaching. So the ninth house is also to do with learning and teaching. So pretty much, what can I say about this? Pay attention to what it is that you're learning and also to how you're learning. A lot of people go through, for example, GCSEs here in the UK, which is basically your secondary school or your high school learning system. And only when they get to that is that when they find new ways of revising material, whether it's flashcards. Oh, I'm going to learn by repeating it. Oh, I'm going to learn by reading a certain book. Oh, I'm going to learn by doing this method or Pomodoro or whatever it is, right? Find ways that you can discipline and learn, especially within yourself, because this is Aries, your ninth house, okay? So basically what I want to say for this second one here is more discipline in learning and teaching. You're going to be given more discipline and more advantages when it comes to your learning and discipline, because that's a lot of what Saturn is related to: wisdom and discipline and structure. So structure your learning, structure your teaching if you're a teacher, or if you're teaching in any way, and be okay with learning in different ways. Now, the last thing I want to say is be careful on any long distance travels. Get that travel insurance and choose that more safer flight or boat route or whatever it is that you're doing, because the ninth house, just like the ninth sign, rules long distance travel. And you already have quite a heated, if you're a Leo rising, when you travel or when you do long distance travels, like, when you're getting on a plane, not in your local area, I'm talking about when you're getting on a plane and you're going to far distant lands, your ninth house is Aries. So it can be quite like all everywhere, right? And it can also be like you Leo risings probably have a lot of solo travel, because Aries is, a lot of solo stuff. So all I'm going to say is be very careful on your long distance travels, because Saturn is going to be very much so present in those long distance travels. So be very careful with who it is that you go with, what mode of transport that you go in, and so on and so forth. Then we have Virgo rising. This is me. So I'm a Virgo rising, okay? Now, just like the eighth sign, Scorpio, the eighth house is Aries for you, which is, tell me, I know about it. It can be quite interesting. So we're going to talk about a few things over here. Emotional, especially emotional, I've underlined that, and financial transformation. Watch out for debts. Careful with casual sex, new forms of intimacy, and leaving old intimate patterns. Okay, let's start over here. So Virgo rising, you have Aries as your eighth house, and Scorpio is quite deep emotions, quite obscure emotions even, and some nasty and unpleasant things often come from the eighth house, like death, and this is a house of essentially death, but also your deep emotions, and it's also ruled by Mars, remember. So you probably, Virgo rising, have quite intense emotions. Now with Saturn going through there, it's going to humble you with your emotions, and it's going to make you feel restricted, or like you have karma coming back for what you've made other people feel like. Regardless, this is emotional and financial transformation for the good and for the better. Let go of what needs to be let go of in terms of trauma releasing, or people that you have emotional connections to, and accept what is new to come. Don't fucking hold on to shit that's making you more sad and more angry and everything. Let go of that. Let go of that. Let go of that. Because holding on sometimes is where you find the pain, and sometimes letting go is where you find the beauty. That's exactly the case for your emotions. Now, the 8th house also has to do with finances and financial themes. And also inheritance. You might find that someone dies in your family and you get a lot of inheritance, Virgo rising. Okay. Or you might find that someone dies in your family and you don't get none of that inheritance. So whichever the case, there's definitely a financial transformation. And this is why I said over here, watch out for debts. Watch out for any contracts that you sign. Be careful with any contracts that you sign. Be careful with any debts that you may take on. And if you have any debts, this is the time where I would want to pay it off, because don't owe Babylon no money, right? Before you leave the system, before you go and build your house in the bush and you get away from everyone, pay Babylon back their money. I know it's not nice. It might not even be fair, but pay them back their money and then get out. This is the same for any contracts in education, any contracts in anything, to be honest. Just be very cautious with money for the next 2.5 years. I wouldn't really say money. I would say contracts that involve money and things that involve money. Okay, so yeah, money, but more so the things that involve them, not just money directly, like in your bank account. And be very careful with casual sex. Okay, so because the 8th house is like the 8th sign Scorpio, you want to be very, very careful with casual sex. You want to be careful who you have intimate encounters with. With Saturn being in there, I can see a lot of Virgo risings. If you do have casual sex, if you are on the more intimate side, just like that, no shame. It is what it is. People go through their journeys in life, and things. I myself have with these sort of things. But here's what I'm suspecting is that if you are someone that's going to be casual with sex and do that sort of thing, you're probably going to catch some sort of a disease, because Saturn is sitting there in the 8th house, ready to teach you death, ready to teach you wisdom and restriction and structure. And guess what? Karma, dharma. So you're going to learn a lot if you have casual sex. Probably not in the good way. So personally, I would stick away from it. And also new forms of intimacy plus leaving old intimate patterns. Now, this is where it gets juicy and good. If you're someone like me, right now is a good time for you to start learning sexual alchemy. Right now is the perfect time for you to start learning sexual alchemy, Virgo rising. Do that because you're also going to be able to leave behind old intimate patterns. You ever have sex with someone after a long relationship and you realize that sometimes you might make love to them in the same way that you used to with someone else? That might be a horrible thing to hear, but it's true. That's a lot of where our bodily patterns come from. So this is a good time to work on leaving that. Accepting that everybody has a different body. You caress and you touch someone and you make love to someone in a different way. Maybe some things stay the same and that's you, but you're now going to have to differentiate in between what is you and what isn't you in sex. So that being said, Virgo rising, be very careful with these things and look to really explore sex in a more harmonious and divine way. Libra rising. Okay, so Aries is your 7th house. People might see you. The 7th house is over here. Like I said, it's how people see you. How people see you. So the 7th house is how people see you. People might see you, look at you, meet you and think, oh, you're an Aries. But now with Saturn going through there, people might not like how they see you. This I don't think this is over here. No, this is not here. Before I even get to this, the 7th house, right? Very important. It's how the world sees you. It's how not the world, because that's more so the 10th house, but it's how people one-to-one and small groups of people, how they see you. So because Aries is your 7th, people might see you as a very aggressive, angry person, maybe. Also as a very independent person, if not angry. And that's good. But with Saturn going through there, so relationships either get serious or end, no in between. Let me tell you guys something, right? As a Virgo, so this was me before. So my seventh house before Saturn was transiting. Let me tell you guys, I was in a relationship in 2022, just before Saturn entered my seventh house. Remember, this is shifting one back. So it would have been my seventh house where, you know, this was happening when it was in Pisces. So Pisces is my seventh. This would have been me like a few years ago. I had a really nasty breakup. It was the first time I had fell in love. It was the first time I had like actually fell in love. And Saturn, I noticed after, Saturn was just about to enter Pisces when the heartbreak came or the relationship ended, right? Now, through that, it was a lot of pain. It was pretty much 8 months of like pain and like trying to figure out what was going on and before I could like let go, right? So, from a very deep personal experience, relationships either get very serious or end. No in between. There's no in between over here. You're either going to work through it and be like, okay, cool, this is where shit gets serious, or things will end and you have to be okay with both of them. You know, life is going to humble you in tremendously different ways and shapes and forms. So other than that, the same applies for business plus your one-to-one moments / relationships. The same here applies. So, okay, Saturn in your seventh house is your one-to-ones. Whenever you're sitting down in a room with one person and that's you and them, whether it's your girlfriend, whether it's your wife, whether it's your husband, whether it's your boyfriend, whether it's your father, whether it's your mother, your brother, your sister, that is a one-to-one situation. That is a seventh house situation, one-to-one. Just like the seventh sign, which is actually opposite here. Libra is actually the seventh sign. This is it's very interesting because the natural rising sign of the world is Aries, and so the natural setting sign is Libra. That's why the sign of Libra is actually the sun setting. So this is quite interesting. Whenever you're in those situations, one-to-one, that's when this energy comes in, and so you're gonna get a lot of wisdom. Yeah, you might lose some people or some friends that you have a connection with, but more so relationships and businesses as well. But a lot of wisdom and a lot of karma is going to be flowing around you. A lot of wisdom. I learned a lot from that breakup that I went through when Saturn was transiting my seventh house. I learned so much, and it put me on a trajectory where I was delving deeper in myself. So the same applies for business. Now, this is also to do with a little bit of business. One-to-one is you and an organization, you and your business partner. So the same might apply where you and your business partner, actually, I don't want to carry on this business with you. I'm gonna leave the business to you. Let me get my money. I'm gonna leave the business to you. Actually, we got to do this business more properly because shit isn't working out. So you got to go back to the drawing board and be like, right, Saturn is in the seventh house, but fuck that. What can I do to make this business better? That's where you really put your focus into. So it will oppose your ascendant. You will feel tested in regards to your identity. Now, this is a little bit outside of what Saturn in the seventh house means, but since it is in the seventh house, I decided to just add it there a little bit. So this is the seventh house, right? And this is the first house. Now it's going to create a 180 degree aspect. So 180 degrees equals a opposition. This is the sign for a opposition over here, I believe. And this is pretty much a halfway point in your character, in your journey, in who you are. So it's going to create a strong 180 degree aspect, and that basically means either good or either bad. Now, your ascendant is who you are at your core, and Saturn is all of those above, as I've just explained to you. So you might feel tested in who you are. You might feel like, actually, I need to change who I am so that this can flow and this can be better. So don't be afraid to do so if that's the case, because all of this is going to help you at the end when Saturn leaves in April 2028. It's going to help you be better in business, be better in relationships, and also be better in how you manage yourself and how you see yourself because of this 180 degree aspect that is going to make to your rising sign, which is your persona. Scorpio Rising, sensational. Okay, so Aries is your sixth house, right? And that's it's quite interesting. So it's all about your health, your daily life, your routine as well. Pay close attention to nutrition and be open to adopting things like yoga, new foods, qigong, tantra, wherever it is in terms of like health. So the sixth sign, Virgo, just like the sixth house, is all to do with these kind of themes. Okay, so Scorpio rising, you have Aries in your sixth house, which is quite heated. Yes, it's quite heated, anyways. But so this is all about your health, your daily life, and your routine. That's what Virgo is about, and that's what the sixth house is about. So be ready to be like, actually, fuck it. I don't want to wake up and do yoga anymore. I want to wake up and do qigong. Actually, I don't want to wake up and do qigong. I want to do yoga. Actually, I don't want to eat and be a fucking vegan anymore. I want to eat meat. I don't want to eat meat anymore. I don't want to eat a dead animal that's been raped, tortured, and murdered. I want to eat plants now. That's exactly the kind of effect that this is going to have for you and that you're going to feel. Okay, so pay close attention to nutrition and be open to adopting things like yoga, new food, qigong, and etc. So your nutrition might actually be quite a key theme here, okay? And with Saturn, the planet of death and everything, you might be more so adjusted to eating meat maybe, or you're actually like, you know what, I have all that wisdom from Saturn. All minerals and all essential nutrients can actually be found in plants, apart from all of these health professionals on Instagram telling you that you need to eat a dead animal to be nutrient appropriate in your body. You don't, and that's a fact. Whether you like it or not, hey, I'm just a messenger. You do your thing. You carry on. So be open to changing your diet. Be open to changing your routine. And especially your routine in your daily life. Don't fuck about when it comes to your daily life and your routine. When you wake up in the morning, if you're someone that's scrolling on your phone, if you're someone that's, might as well position myself over here. If you wake up in the morning and you're scrolling on your phone and you are not really paying attention to what it is that's coming out of yourself, you're going to lose a lot of your energy, lose a lot of your chi. This is where Saturn is going to tell you, no. Give death to all of that doom scrolling. Give death to all of that bullshit in your day-to-day life that is not actually helping you. And then it's going to download some knowledge for you. And then when you apply that knowledge, it then becomes wisdom. And then you actually get to be like, you know what? I actually have a lot of power and control over my daily routine, which you do. So change your daily life, Scorpio rising. This is what Saturn is going to tell you to do. And also, in tarot, this is known as the Hermit card. Okay, this is the Hermit. So you might actually feel like going in a hermit mode or hermit phase, or you might feel like that's the worst thing for you. So pay very close attention to how it is that you feel in social circles and within yourself. Sagittarius rising, your fifth house is Aries, and Saturn is in it right now. So this is quite an interesting one. Sagittarius rising, creativity will change. You will have to take it more seriously despite potential blocks. Wisdom from creativity is the key here. So if you're someone, if you're Sagittarius rising, if you're someone that hasn't really been using their creativity, whether it's in creating content, whether it's in the work that you do, whether it's in anything, an art that you like, making music, drawing something, creating a sound for people to hear, creating something online for people to see and interact with, Saturn is going to tell you, actually, stop doing this and start doing something else. So for Sagittarius rising, Aries is your fifth house. Your fifth house is just like the fifth sign, Leo. It's a fire, so it's good. There's some sort of synastry there, and you're going to feel like a lot of fire is coming in, and it's going to ask you to create things. So take your creativity seriously, okay? Creativity is where God speaks to us. God speaks to us through everything, physical and non-physical. This whole universe is an emanation of God, okay? Whole different story, but your creativity is where serious things come out of, okay? Very, very serious things. Don't take your creativity for no joke. People that work a 9 to 5 on a corporate job have no fucking clue of what it's like to be an extremely creative person and to channel good energies and God. I'm not talking about channeling like Bashar, because I'm not really into that, but channeling in terms of energies and God and a divine source through the art that you make. Look at Chantress Shiba, who's been making beautiful music. Look at Alex Gray. That's all channeling the divine within, that creativity. So learn where it is that you have creative blocks with Saturn, giving death to that, and learn how Saturn can give you knowledge and then some wisdom applied. You know, when you use that knowledge, when you apply that knowledge, you get wisdom from it. Use that, okay? Now, interesting, right? Romance gets serious. The fifth house is, it can be said to be the house of love, guys. It can be said to be the house of love. Why do I say that? Okay, cool. The fifth sign, just like Leo. Leo is a little bit like the father as well. Okay, it's a very good leader, but it's also to do, it's a very passionate and loving sign. Now, since your fifth house is Aries, okay, Leo is already the fifth sign, and the fifth house, and Aries is your fifth house. It's quite fiery. You're quite a romantic and deep person. You can go deep within someone and see someone deeply in terms of romance. Okay, they might not be able to do the same for you or with you, but nevertheless, this is what we have here. Romance is going to get a little bit more serious. Take a bit more of a serious approach, Sagittarius Rising, to your romance, or at least see where things need to end. There might be an ending to your romance, and there might be a very beautiful birthing, because as we know, death means rebirth. Okay. So you should work on turning your passions into something more structured and serious. This is basically what I was saying with the creativity. Turn your passions, turn that creative fuel, that creative fire. There's a lot of fire here. Fifth house, fifth sign. Aries is the fifth sign for you here. It's an amazing time to turn up that passion, turn up that creativity. So go ahead and do that. And death of ego, question mark, I put. So Leo is also known as the just gonna get a bit more wider here. Leo is known as almost like the ego of the zodiac. Very egotistical, some Leos can be. Like myself, in my sidereal, my sun is on the 4th degree of Leo, and a lot of people have told me you have a bit of an interesting ego, quite big and quite structured. I know, I know. So this could mean a death to your ego is coming to you. It also could mean that you are going to face a lot of the karma that your ego puts out, and it's going to come back to you. You might feel restricted in your ego, so you might turn to your id and be like, okay, which is your rising sign in psychology. You have your ego, id, and whatnot. So this could mean a death of the ego regardless. This is definitely going to humble you in the creative way, and then help you push some creative things out. Turn to your creativity for money. Turn to your creativity for your liberty, for your passions. But remember, certain places the ego can't go. Capricorn Rising. Okay, this is the fourth. So the fourth house for you is Aries. You probably grew up with a lot of problems, perhaps, in your family, in your roots, in because that's what the fourth house is. The fourth house is your roots. Your roots is your family. I'm in the process of buying a chair so that I can sit down here, like a long bar stool chair, so I don't have to stand up this whole time. But anyways, your fourth is your roots, your family, your ancestors. So with Aries being your fourth, probably grew up in a heated environment. Who knows, right? Don't want to wish anything bad upon anyone. But Capricorn Rising, you have Saturn, your ruler, entering the fourth house. So your ruler is entering your fourth house. It's a little bit serious here. Like I said, the 4th, the 7th, the 1st, and the 10th. Pay special attention, Capricorn Rising. No deal with no business, okay? So changes in wisdom / new home, family, emotional structure. Okay. The fourth house, just like the fourth sign. You see, we're working our way down here. It's Cancer, right? Cancer is a very feminine, receptive, extremely psychic. Tell you guys something about Cancer. Yeah, Cancers have that ability to be psychic. So in this fourth house, you could learn, actually, I'm an extremely psychic person, Capricorn Rising. I'm an extremely psychic person. So your ruler, your chart ruler, if you're Capricorn Rising, is Saturn. Now, when it enters there, it doesn't really like being in the fourth house, okay? Because it likes being on the opposite, the 10th over here. It likes being over here in the 10th. It doesn't like being down here in the 4th, okay? Oh, there in the 4th. It likes being up there. So it's going to feel challenged. You're going to feel some challenges in your family, in your roots, in your ancestors. And also, because it's the fourth house, just like the fourth sign, your emotional structure, your emotional needs. If people in your family, in your friends, or especially in your family and your roots, aren't giving you that emotional energy that you need, or you don't have that connection with them, express it, talk about it. Something's going to happen with it, okay? So you could get closer to your ancestors and roots. That is something definitely that I see for a lot of Capricorn risings, is that you're going to be very, very close to your ancestors and your roots, and things are going to happen to you and with you so that you can have a closer connection to people in your past. Maybe you don't have grandparents that you know of and they come into your life, actually were your grandparents or something. That is probably going to be the case for some Capricorn risings in the next 2.5 years. And then we have, could mean you move houses plus lose/gain family. So, okay, this is probably not the best things to say, but yeah, it's true. You might lose some family. Some family might be dying. Some family might be going away very far, moving very far away from you. But also, just like the fourth sign, Cancer, the fourth house also rules land. Okay, land that you own and land that you live on. You might move houses. You might lose property. You might gain property, or you might gain more houses. Okay, as much as Saturn can give, Saturn can take. But we also all know that Saturn is a little bit more so about taking. So be prepared to move houses if you have to. Be prepared to lose family if you have to, or if that is the case, then just know that Saturn is going to bring you some wisdom through that, and that everybody has their time to leave. Okay, a lot of the times in the West, we're selfish. We want to keep someone alive for as long as we can. When it's their time to go, we have to let them go. And this is exactly what Saturn might be bringing for some of you. So, like I said, guys, these are the three main things for Capricorn rising. And you guys are really, really and truly, you're going to have a lot of wisdom coming from your home, your family, the land, and also your emotional structure. Aquarius rising. Okay, so Aquarius rising, Aries is your third house. You have quite a Aries third house. Oh my gosh, you speak. You be very good at starting wars. You can speak quite heatedly, quite hot, quite intensely. So you must learn to stop communicating in some ways, or learn to communicate in other or better ways, as I said over there. So Saturn, we have discipline, death, wisdom, restriction, karma, and structure. When it goes into the third house of yours, Aquarius rising, Aries, you're going to have to learn to stop speaking in some ways that isn't helpful, and learn how to speak in others. Saturn in the third house imposes restrictions on how we speak. It also can give us wisdom on how we speak. So if there's ever a time to learn how to stop before you speak, now is it. Now is it. Up until April 2028, learn what it is that you are saying to people, that you are communicating to people that isn't good. Learn your patterns of communication. Learn what it is that, or you're going to experience what it is in terms of karma. When you say something, it's going to have an effect on people, and that can come back to you. Saturn is going to be there. So learn how to communicate in better ways, because Saturn isn't here to play no games, and it's going to tell you guys, actually, you've been saying this, you've been saying that, you've been doing this with your words. Now it's time for you to pay the price. So be very careful in how it is that you communicate, because Aquarius rising in classical astrology, your chart ruler is then Saturn. So this is going to be quite activating for you, and you will have the ability to think before you speak, which is logic, that Gemini mind. Just like the third sign, Gemini, the third house, Gemini. So, you know, and it's funny that I even said that before I even read this over here. So yeah, this is going to give you a very good ability to think before you speak. So please think before you speak, Aquarius rising, because you might encounter a lot of issues if you do not. And sometimes when you actually think and process things and take everything into account before you speak, the wisdom that is going to come out of you guys' mouth is absolutely beautiful. So definitely pay attention to that, Aquarius rising. And I also want to say, Aquarius rising, that yes, this is the house of siblings. Your third, Gemini, the twins, the lungs and the arms. Watch out for your lungs and your arms in medical astrology. Read some of Judith Hill. It's very good for you guys. But also, this is the sign of siblings. So you might feel like, oh, actually, this brother or this sister of mine, fuck them, I don't want them in my life. We have family that's blood and blood that isn't family. I'm going to say that one more time. We have family that is blood, and we have blood that is not family. And this is when some of you guys might actually learn that in the terms of your siblings, or you get a lot of wisdom, you get a lot of teaching, a lot of lessons from your siblings, and this can be very good and bring you guys closer. Last but not least, we have Pisces Rising. Now, Pisces Rising, this is going to be entering Saturn, your second house, right? So your second house is Aries, which means you probably get money quick sometimes out of nowhere, through war, through combat. A lot of Pisces Risings actually, they're fighters. They're people that trained MMA. Like I used to a little bit, you know, but I never went into it professionally because I like my brain, I like my body. So Aries being your second house, Aries being the sign of war. This could mean that if you are a fighter, if you are thinking on doing things like that, maybe in these next 2 years, you're going to get a lot of money through that Aries second house, that war. And second house is to do with finances, just like the second sign. So changes in money, job, income may be heavy. You will have the ability to change income. So the main thing that I see here, Pisces Rising, is that you're going to have an ability to change and restructure the way you receive money, whether it's through a job, whether it's through something on the side, whether it's through MMA, like I said, or boxing, or whatever it is, some form of combat, some form of independent type of job, okay? Because Aries is independent. So something you're doing solo, maybe you working from home, this might be a good time to change into that. So it will redefine what self-worth is to you and how you treat thyself. So Taurus is not only to do with precious metals, the money you receive, the money you have, just like the eighth sign is also to do a little bit of those finances as well, like I spoke about over here. It is very much so to do with your self-worth, how you value yourself, but also your body, your physical body. One thing I would say for Pisces Rising is watch out for your body, especially because the ruler in classical astrology for Pisces is Jupiter. And even if it wasn't, and we're looking at modern astrology, it's Neptune, which guess what is, and it was conjunct with Saturn a few months ago in February. It's definitely going to have some form of an effect on your physical body and how you treat yourself. So your self-worth, don't let people talk to you in a certain way. They don't have to be in your life. They don't have to talk to you in that way. You don't have to treat yourself in that way as well. That's the one thing you have to remember, Pisces Rising, is that you don't have to treat yourself in the certain ways that you have been. You can change your brain chemistry through learning new practices and new things. I have changed my brain chemistry through learning things like yoga and meditation. It's been quite powerful, actually. And the effects of which I cannot begin to say, honestly. So you will have definitely the ability to change your income, or you might find that actually your job or your finances, you take a loss in your finances, but through that loss comes knowledge. And when you apply that knowledge and you get a better job and you change your circumstances, much more wisdom comes into the picture over here. So definitely take care of your finances. Keep an eye out for your finances, and also treat yourself better than anyone else, because this might be a time where you might find that you're having a lot of negative self-talk. So treat yourself better. And with that being said, guys, this is the end of the video here. I hope you guys enjoyed it, whatever rising sign you are. And if you guys are interested, below is a link to my website where you're able to book tarot, astrology, numerology for now. And there's going to be a lot more things on that website in the near future. So I hope you guys had a tremendous time watching this, and have a tremendous day, night, evening, morning, wherever and whoever you are.